Chapter 1. A Symphony of Rain and Tears. The city was a canvas, painted in shades of weeping gray. A relentless downpour hammered the cobblestone streets, drumming a mournful rhythm against the aged rooftops of Paris. Inside a quaint cafe, nestled amidst the bustling heart of the Latin Quarter, Nicole sat huddled in a corner booth, a solitary figure dwarfed by the plush velvet seat. The steam from her untouched cup of tea swirled into the chilly air, a silent mirror to the turmoil swirling within her. Her heart, usually a steady metronome, now pounded a frantic rhythm against her ribs. Each beat felt like a thunderclap echoing through the hollow chamber she called her chest. The news, delivered with a cold formality, still reverberated in her ears. Ethan, her Ethan, the melody to her life, was gone. Lost in a tragic accident, a plane crash across the unforgiving Atlantic. The image of his face, etched with a smile that could light up a starless night, haunted her. The memory of his touch, a lingering warmth on her skin, sent a fresh wave of tears cascading down her cheeks, mingling with the raindrops that streamed relentlessly down the cafe window. Outside, the world seemed to be in mourning with her. The wind howled like a grieving banshee, whipping the skeletal branches of the ancient trees lining the street. The rain, relentless conductor, led an orchestra of melancholic sounds. The gurgling gutters, the mournful cries of distant sirens, the rhythmic drumming on the cafe's awning. It was a symphony of sorrow, perfectly in tune with the tempest raging within her. The past year had been a whirlwind romance, a crescendo of stolen moments and whispered promises. They had met by chance, two souls adrift in a crowded Parisian market, drawn together by an invisible force. Their connection was immediate, a melody they both recognized, a harmony that soothed the ache within them both. Ethan, a renowned violinist with a career on the brink of international stardom, had chosen to take a sabbatical, drawn to the bohemian charm of Paris. Nicole, an aspiring writer, found her muse in the city's cobbled streets and whispered history. Their love story unfolded like a sonnet, each encounter a verse, each stolen glance a rhyme. Ethan's music became the soundtrack to their love, his violin whispering tales of their budding affection. In return, Nicole filled his notebooks with stories that poured from her soul, dreams and desires previously locked away. But fate, it seemed, had a cruel sense of humor. Just as their symphony reached a crescendo of shared dreams and whispered plans for a future bathed in sunlight, fate played a discordant note. Ethan, called back to the States for a high-profile concert tour, boarded that ill-fated plane, leaving Nicole with nothing but the echo of his laughter and the faint scent of his cologne clinging to his discarded scarf. Now, the cafe, once a haven for stolen kisses and whispered dreams, felt like a tomb. Every corner held a memory, every worn armchair a ghost of his presence. The rain, relentless in its grief, mirrored the storm raging within her. The symphony of sorrow continued to play, a relentless reminder of her loss, her heart a shattered instrument in the orchestra of despair. Chapter 2. Stolen Moments in a Crowded World. Days bled into weeks, a monotonous blur of gray punctuated by the sting of fresh tears. The vibrant melody of Paris, once a source of inspiration for Nicole, had gone silent, replaced by a dirge of heartbreak. Her tiny apartment, usually a haven for creativity, became a cage of memories. Every corner held a whisper of Ethan, every object a tangible reminder of his absence. One particularly bleak afternoon, the melancholic melody of a violin drifted through her window. It was a familiar piece, a sonata they had discovered together on their first exploration of a dusty music store. It was as if Ethan himself were serenading her, a bittersweet reminder of a love lost. The music spurred her into action, a flicker of defiance against the suffocating grief. She pulled out her worn notebook, the one filled with stories inspired by Ethan's music. With trembling hands, she began to write. The words flowed, a torrent of emotions pouring onto the page. The story, born from the raw ache of loss, was unlike anything she had written before. It was a tale of two souls finding solace in each other amidst a bustling, indifferent world. a world that seemed determined to keep them apart. As she wrote, the city outside slowly came alive. The rain had finally stopped, and a sliver of sunlight peeked through the clouds, casting a gentle glow on the page. Inspired, she ventured out, drawn by a subconscious need to escape the confines of her grief-stricken apartment. The cobbled streets bustled with life, a stark contrast to the desolate landscape within her. Lost in her thoughts, she wandered aimlessly, past bustling cafes and overflowing flower stalls. She found herself drawn to the familiar park where they used to spend their afternoons, sharing dreams and ambitions under the shade of ancient oak trees. There, on a weathered bench overlooking a shimmering pond, a group of street musicians were performing. The sight of a lone violinist, his bow dancing across the strings, sent a jolt through her. The melody that emanated from his instrument was the same piece that had drifted through her window, the sonata that held such profound meaning for them. Compelled by an unknown force, she sat down on the opposite end of the bench, her gaze fixed on the violinist. As he played, a kaleidoscope of memories flooded her mind. Ethan, his eyes closed in concentration, his fingers dancing across the strings, lost in the world he created with his music. They would sit in this very park, Nicole sketching in her notebook, Ethan lost in the melody he was composing. The last note of the sonata vibrated in the air, a melancholy echo of their lost love. The violinist opened his eyes, and her breath hitched in her throat. His eyes, the same shade of blue as the summer sky after a storm, mirrored her own sorrow. But there was something more in them, a flicker of recognition, a spark of connection. He met her gaze for a fleeting moment, a silent exchange that passed between them like a secret message. Then, with a shy smile, he bowed to the scattered crowd and packed away his instrument. Curiosity, tinged with a sliver of hope, stirred within Nicole. Had fate, in its cruel benevolence, orchestrated this encounter? Was this just a cruel trick of her grieving heart? Or was there something more? With a deep breath, she rose from the bench, her legs unsteady beneath her. She would find out. She had to. The symphony of her life might be forever tinged with sorrow, but perhaps, just perhaps, there was a new melody waiting to be composed. Chapter 3. The Language of Stolen Glances. The following days were a delicate dance between curiosity and cautious hope. Each afternoon, Nicole found herself drawn back to the park, a silent observer on the weathered bench. The violinist, whose name she learned was Leo, was always there, his music a poignant echo of her own grief. Their connection, unspoken yet undeniable, blossomed in the language of stolen glances and shared silences. As Leo played, his eyes would occasionally meet hers, a fleeting acknowledgement of the shared melody of their sorrow. Nicole, in turn, would find her gaze drawn to his passionate expression, his fingers weaving magic on the strings. One afternoon, as the last notes of a particularly melancholic piece faded into the air, Leo surprised her. He stood there, violin case in hand, a hesitant smile playing on his lips. He held out a single, crimson rose, its velvety petals catching the last rays of the setting sun. Nicole's heart skipped a beat. The gesture was so reminiscent of Ethan, a man who understood the language of flowers. She reached out, her fingers gently brushing his as she took the rose. The warmth of his touch sent a shiver down her spine, a foreign sensation in the landscape of her grief. With a shy nod, Leo gestured towards a nearby bench, a silent invitation. Nicole followed, her steps hesitant yet filled with a flicker of newfound hope. They sat in silence, the air thick with unspoken emotions. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the park, snatching Nicole's worn notebook from the bench. It fluttered through the air, landing at Leo's feet. He picked it up, his brow furrowing as he saw the sketches and scribbled words within. With a hesitant smile, he held it out to her. As she reached for it, their fingers brushed again, sending a jolt through her. This time, it wasn't a tremor of fear but a spark of something electric, a spark she couldn't ignore. Timidly, Leo opened the notebook, his eyes widening in surprise. He pointed to a particularly detailed sketch of a violinist, lost in the throes of performance. It was a perfect portrait of Ethan, captured with an uncanny accuracy that spoke of a deep affection. Tears welled up in Nicole's eyes. How could she explain the story behind the sketch? The story of a love cut short, a melody forever unfinished. She closed her eyes, bracing for the inevitable pain. But instead of pity or judgment, she felt a gentle hand on hers. Leo, his face etched with understanding, opened his own battered violin case. Inside, nestled amongst the velvet lining, lay a worn photograph. It depicted a young woman, her eyes sparkling with laughter, holding a violin, a woman with a striking resemblance to Nicole herself. The unspoken message hung heavy in the air. Leo, too, had lost someone he loved, a sister who shared his passion for music. In that shared moment of grief, they found a fragile connection, a bridge built over the chasms of their loss. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, a silent understanding bloomed between them. They might not have the words to express their sorrow, but they had music, a language that transcended spoken word. Perhaps, in the melodies they shared, they could find solace, a way to heal and rebuild lives shattered by loss. Chapter 4: Blossoming Hope Under Storm Clouds. The weeks that followed were a slow, tentative dance between grief and a nascent hope. Nicole and Leo continued their silent rendezvous in the park, their connection deepening with each shared melody. He would play, his music echoing the bittersweet symphony of their lives, while she would sketch, her charcoal capturing the raw emotion etched on his face as his fingers danced across the strings. One rainy afternoon, huddled under a shared umbrella, a sudden gust of wind sent Nicole's sketchbook tumbling. As she stooped to gather the scattered pages, a particular sketch caught her eye. It was a portrait of Leo, not lost in performance as she usually drew him, but gazing intently at a younger woman with her back turned. The woman in the sketch wore a familiar floral scarf, the same scarf Ethan had left behind on their last stolen night together. A wave of emotions washed over Nicole: curiosity, a flicker of doubt, and a pang of jealousy. Who was this woman in the sketch? Was Leo harboring a secret love, a past that mirrored her own? Hesitantly, she showed him the sketch, her heart pounding in her chest. Leo's eyes darkened with a mixture of sadness and surprise. He pointed to the woman's back and then to his own violin case. Hesitantly, he opened it, revealing not his instrument, but a faded concert poster. The photograph on the poster depicted a young woman, her radiant smile holding a striking resemblance to the woman in the sketch, playing the violin with an air of passionate intensity. The inscription on the poster read, "In loving memory of Clara Rossi, a brilliant violinist whose music touched the hearts of many." Understanding dawned on Nicole. Clara, Leo's sister, was not just a memory, but a lost dream, a melody forever silenced. A silent kinship bloomed between them. They were two souls bound by their shared love for music and the grief of losing someone special. In their unspoken bond, they found solace. Leo's music, once a lament, now carried a tinge of hope, a melody that seemed to acknowledge the possibility of healing. Nicole's sketches, once steeped in despair, began to show glimmers of light, capturing the beauty of the city bathed in post-rain sunlight. One evening, as the city twinkled with the soft glow of streetlights, Leo hesitantly invited Nicole to his small apartment. Inside, the air hung heavy with the scent of old books and violin rosin. The walls were adorned with photographs of a smiling Clara, her passion for music radiating from every picture. In the corner stood an old gramophone, its polished surface reflecting the soft glow of a single candle. Leo gently placed a record on the turntable, the familiar scratchel of the needle a prelude to the melody that filled the room. It was a piece Nicole recognized, a waltz they had discovered together in that dusty music store, a waltz that served as the soundtrack to their first stolen kiss. As the music swelled, Leo knelt before her, his eyes reflecting a vulnerability she hadn't seen before. He extended his hand, an invitation for a dance. Hesitantly, Nicole reached out, her fingers lacing with his. They swayed to the music, a slow, tentative waltz in the candlelit room. It wasn't a dance of passion, but a dance of shared understanding, a promise of a future built on the foundations of their shared past. The rain outside continued to fall, a melancholic melody against the backdrop of their quiet waltz. It was a reminder of the storm clouds that still hung over their lives, but for the first time, they weren't facing them alone. They had each other, and in that moment, that was enough. They were two souls, battered by life's storms, finding solace in the shared melody of their healing hearts. Chapter 5. A Waltz with Fate. The news arrived unexpectedly, a crisp white envelope nestled amongst the usual bills and flyers in Nicole's mailbox. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she recognized the return address, the prestigious music academy Ethan had attended before his ill-fated flight. With trembling fingers, she tore open the envelope, her breath catching in her throat as she scanned the official letterhead. An invitation. An invitation to a special gala honoring Ethan's life and legacy, his unfinished symphony to be performed by a renowned orchestra. A wave of emotions washed over her, grief, a flicker of anger, and a strange sense of anticipation. Should she go? Would it be too painful, a fresh wound ripped open? Leo, sensing her turmoil, sat beside her, his touch a silent comfort. He understood. He, too, had received an invitation, a similar gesture from Clara's former music school. Together, they looked out the window, the city bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. Was it fate calling them, urging them to confront their pasts, or was it simply a chance to honor the memories they held so dear? Days turned into weeks, a flurry of indecision followed by a quiet acceptance. They would go, not just for Ethan and Clara, but for themselves. The gala, held in a grand, historic concert hall, was a whirlwind of emotions. The air crackled with anticipation, the hushed whispers of the well-dressed patrons punctuated by the gentle strains of pre-performance music. Nicole wandered the lobby, her gaze drawn to a display case. Inside, resting on a bed of crimson velvet, was Ethan's violin, the very instrument that had once filled their Parisian apartment with melody. Tears welled up in her eyes, a bittersweet ache settling in her chest. A hand touched her shoulder, and she turned to find Leo beside her, his expression mirroring her own sorrow. As the lights dimmed and the conductor took his place, a hush fell over the audience. The orchestra launched into the first movement of Ethan's unfinished symphony, a poignant melody that tugged at Nicole's heartstrings. It was a powerful piece, filled with both grief and hope, a testament to a life cut short but a melody that still resonated with the world. During the intermission, Leo led Nicole up to the balcony, offering a breathtaking view of the brightly lit city below. They stood in silence, the music from the concert hall drifting up like a whispered prayer. Suddenly, a woman approached them, her smile warm and genuine. She introduced herself as Sarah, a friend of Ethan's from his academy days. Sarah explained that she had been tasked with overseeing the gala arrangements and had recognized Nicole from some of Ethan's sketches she had found in his belongings. As they talked, Nicole learned more about Ethan, the man she loved. Stories of his dedication to music, his infectious laughter, and his dreams for the future. Sharing these memories softened the sharp edges of grief, painting a richer picture of the man who had stolen her heart. When the final notes of the symphony faded and the thunderous applause filled the hall, Nicole knew she had made the right decision to attend. The music, a poignant blend of sorrow and resilience, had served as a healing balm, a testament to the enduring power of love and legacy. Leaving the concert hall hand in hand with Leo, Nicole felt a shift within her. The rain, no longer a symbol of sorrow, was a cleansing shower washing away the last remnants of grief. The city, once cloaked in shades of mourning, now shimmered with the promise of a new dawn. They walked on, two souls intertwined by fate, ready to compose a new symphony together, a melody filled with hope, healing, and the promise of a love that would endure. Chapter 6. The Weight of Family Secrets. Weeks after the gala, a sense of unease gnawed at Nicole. The bittersweet emotions stirred by Ethan's symphony lingered, a discordant note in the melody of her newfound peace. There was something Sarah, Ethan's friend, had mentioned that refused to leave her mind. A hint, a fleeting observation about a family burden Ethan had carried. a secret that had weighed heavily on him. The revelation, coupled with Ethan's unfinished symphony, a piece imbued with a melancholic undercurrent, fueled a burning curiosity within Nicole. What was this secret? Why had Ethan never confided in her? The uncertainty gnawed at her, casting a shadow over the growing connection with Leo. One afternoon, while browsing through a dusty antique bookstore, a worn leather-bound journal caught her eye. The inscription on the cover, Ethan Miller, sent a jolt through her. Her heart pounded as she purchased the journal, a desperate need to understand Ethan, to reconcile the man she loved with this hidden piece of his past. Back in her apartment, with trembling hands, she opened the journal. The yellowed pages were filled with Ethan's familiar handwriting, a mixture of musical notations and introspective prose. As she delved deeper, a horrifying truth unfolded. Ethan wasn't just a talented violinist. He was the adopted son of a renowned conductor, a man revered in the music world. A conductor who, according to Ethan's anguished entries, had been responsible for a devastating fire that claimed the life of his biological family years ago. The guilt and the fear of scrutiny had haunted Ethan, a burden he carried silently, afraid to tarnish his adopted father's reputation. The revelation left Nicole reeling. The man she loved, the man whose music spoke of beauty and hope, had been a prisoner of a tragic past. Anger and a profound sense of betrayal welled up within her. But beneath it all, there was a flicker of understanding. His unfinished symphony, now understood in this new light, became a poignant testament to his struggle. The discordant notes, the unresolved melodies, they all reflected the turmoil he kept hidden. Tears streamed down her face, a mixture of grief for the burden he carried and a newfound compassion for the man she loved. The weight of the secret threatened to drown her in a sea of doubt. Should she confront Leo, tell him about the discovery? Or would it be a betrayal of Ethan's silence, a desecration of the memory he tried to protect? Chapter 7. A Farewell Symphony. Torn between the loyalty she felt for Ethan and the budding trust she shared with Leo, Nicole spent days wrestling with the weight of the secret. Sleep offered no solace, her dreams haunted by images of a burning building and Ethan's anguished face. Finally, she reached a decision. She had to tell Leo. Gathering her courage, she met him at their usual park bench. The air crackled with unspoken tension as she held out Ethan's journal, its worn pages a tangible representation of the secret she was about to reveal. Leo's brow furrowed in confusion as he accepted the journal. His eyes widened as he saw Ethan's name on the cover, a flicker of recognition replacing the initial curiosity. With a deep breath, Nicole sat beside him, her gaze fixed on the weathered monument in the center of the park. As Leo turned the pages, his expression shifted from surprise to disbelief to a profound sadness. The weight of Ethan's burden became tangible, filling the space between them. When he finished reading, a heavy silence descended, broken only by the mournful cooing of a nearby pigeon. He looked at Nicole, his eyes filled with a mixture of emotions, anger, betrayal, and a flicker of understanding. He pointed to a particular entry, a page filled with a frantic melody scrawled across the staff lines. It was the final movement of his unfinished symphony, a poignant farewell filled with raw despair. Tears welled up in Nicole's eyes. This was the Ethan she never knew, the man battling his demons in the quiet solitude of his room. This was the melody silenced by a past he couldn't escape. With a trembling hand, Leo closed the journal. He stood there for a moment, lost in thought, then turned and walked away. Nicole watched him go, a heart-wrenching emptiness settling in her chest. Had she destroyed the fragile bond they had built? Had she betrayed both Ethan and Leo? Wandering aimlessly through the park, she found herself drawn to the spot where Ethan used to sketch, capturing the city's vibrant life in quick strokes. A single tear rolled down her cheek, landing on the worn surface of a forgotten sketchpad. Picking it up, she was surprised to see a half-finished drawing. A violinist, his face obscured by shadows, playing a hauntingly beautiful melody. It was a powerful sketch, capturing the raw emotion of a man pouring his soul into his music. But something about it resonated with her. Suddenly, a realization dawned on her. It wasn't just Ethan's story, it was Leo's too. His sister, Clara, a talented violinist, a life cut short. Their shared love for music, their connection to loss, these were the threads that bound them together, a melody waiting to be composed. With renewed determination, she picked up her own pen and began to fill the blank page. The melody flowing from her fingertips wasn't a sorrowful farewell, but a tribute to a love lost, a promise of healing, and a hope for a future where their shared music could drown out the sorrows of the past. Chapter 8. The Haunting Silence. Days turned into weeks, the silence between Nicole and Leo a heavy blanket stifling the once vibrant melody of their connection. The park bench, their haven of shared solace, remained empty, a tangible reminder of the chasm that had opened between them. Nicole spent her days consumed by a gnawing regret. Had her need for honesty shattered the fragile trust they had built? Was their connection, born from shared grief, too fragile to weather the storm of Ethan's secret? One evening, unable to bear the silence any longer, she decided to visit Leo. His apartment, usually filled with the sounds of his violin practice, was eerily quiet. A handwritten note lay on his door, gone to Clara's favorite spot. Back soon. Hesitantly, Nicole followed the scant clue. A short train ride later, she found herself standing at the edge of a sprawling meadow, bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. Memories flooded back. A picnic under the wide-open sky, Ethan sketching the landscape, and Leo serenading them with his violin. It was a place imbued with shared joy, a stark contrast to the turmoil she carried within. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, a lone figure emerged from the tall grass. It was Leo, his violin case slung across his back, his expression etched with a profound sadness. He didn't acknowledge her presence, simply walking towards a weathered oak tree, the same tree under which they had sat so many times, sharing their pain through music. There, beneath the shade of its ancient branches, he stood, his back to her, his silhouette a stark contrast to the fading sunlight. The silence stretched on, heavy with unspoken emotions. Finally, Leo slowly drew his violin from its case. The familiar movement, the way he held the instrument close to his heart, it mirrored the way Ethan used to hold his. He began to play. The melody that flowed from his violin was a haunting lament, a tapestry of grief woven with threads of longing and unfulfilled dreams. It spoke of a life cut short, a melody forever silenced. Tears streamed down Nicole's face, the raw emotion in Leo's music echoing the turmoil within her. It wasn't just a lament for Clara, but for Ethan too, for all the dreams lost, for all the music left unspoken. As the last note faded into the twilight, a heavy silence descended once more. But this time, it wasn't devoid of hope. The melody, though sorrowful, had a certain beauty, a resilience that spoke of the enduring power of music, of the ability to find solace in shared grief. Nicole stepped forward, her hand reaching out hesitantly. Leo turned, his eyes filled with a mixture of pain and acceptance. In that silent exchange, they found a fragile bridge over the chasm of their sorrow. They may not have the words to express their emotions, but they had music, a language that spoke louder than any words ever could. Chapter 9. Across the Sea of Doubt. Weeks bled into months, the melody of their connection slowly regaining its lost notes. The park bench, once a symbol of strained silence, became a stage for their unspoken dialogues. This time, however, the shared language wasn't just sorrow. It was a hesitant melody of hope, a tentative exploration of the possibilities that lay beyond the sea of doubt. One afternoon, under the dappled shade of a familiar oak tree, Leo sat lost in thought, his fingers idly tracing the worn wood of his violin case. Beside him, Nicole sketched, capturing the fleeting beauty of a butterfly flitting across a nearby flower. Suddenly, Leo reached into his case, not for his violin, but for a worn leather-bound notebook. He held it out to Nicole, a nervous smile playing on his lips. Recognition dawned on her. It was Clara's notebook, the one containing her compositions and musical notes. A flicker of curiosity ignited in her eyes. With a gentle touch, she took the notebook, flipping through the pages filled with Clara's elegant handwriting. Sketches of musical notations danced on the yellowed paper, interspersed with personal notes and dreams for the future. One particular page caught her attention. It was a detailed sketch of a piece titled Symphony of Reconciliation. The notes, intricate and powerful, hinted at a melody that sought not just to mourn loss, but to find healing and a bridge to a brighter future. A spark of inspiration ignited within Nicole. She reached into her bag and pulled out her own notebook, the one filled with stories inspired by their shared grief. Tentatively, she showed Leo a sketch, a violinist and a writer. Their backs turned, yet their figures intertwined, composing a melody together. Leo's eyes widened in surprise. He saw the connection, the shared dream of creating something beautiful from the ashes of loss. A slow smile spread across his face, a silent agreement blooming between them. That evening, they found themselves back at Leo's apartment, not in the heavy silence of the past weeks, but in a charged space of shared purpose. Leo, his violin in hand, and Nicole, armed with her pen, began to work. The melody flowed from Leo's instrument, hesitant at first but gathering momentum with each note. Nicole scribbled furiously, capturing the essence of the music in words, weaving a story of two souls finding solace in each other's grief. A story of music bridging the gap between past and present. As the night wore on, the air crackled with creativity. The initial hesitancy melted away, replaced by a shared passion. The symphony, once just a dream in Clara's notebook, started to take shape, a collaboration not just of music and words, but of two hearts finding a way to heal together. The night ended with them exhausted but exhilarated, the first movement of their shared symphony complete. It wasn't a perfect melody, yet it held the promise of something beautiful, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a bridge built on shared grief and a melody tinged with the hope of a brighter future. Chapter 10. A Whisper of a Melody. Months turned into a year, a whirlwind of creative collaboration and stolen moments of shared understanding. Leo and Nicole moved through their days intertwined by a melody that transcended spoken word. The park bench remained their sanctuary, but now, instead of a mournful lament, their sessions were filled with the joyous sounds of Leo's violin weaving magic with Nicole's whispered story ideas. One particularly crisp autumn afternoon, they found themselves back at the meadow where Leo used to play for Clara. The once vibrant field was now cloaked in a golden hue, the leaves dancing in the crisp breeze. A bittersweet nostalgia settled over them, a reminder of the past that had brought them together. Leo, his expression pensive, pulled out his violin. The first notes that escaped the instrument were a whisper, a faint echo of a melody that tugged at Nicole's heartstrings. It was a melody from Clara's notebook, a fragment of the unfinished Symphony of Reconciliation. As he played, Nicole watched, her gaze tracing his every movement. The raw emotion pouring from the violin sent a shiver down her spine. It was a lament, yes, but also a plea for acceptance, a search for solace in the face of loss. Suddenly, inspiration struck her. Picking up her notebook, she began to sketch. This time, it wasn't a scene or a portrait, but a symphony itself. Swirling lines and vibrant colors danced on the page, depicting the emotions embedded within Leo's music, the sorrow, the hope, the yearning for a brighter tomorrow. When Leo finished playing, his eyes met hers. He saw the completed sketch, his expression filled with surprise and a flicker of gratitude. Their chosen languages, music and art, had once again provided a bridge, a way to communicate the depths of their emotions without a single spoken word. With renewed inspiration, they returned to their work. The symphony, a collaborative effort fueled by grief and love, began to take on a life of its own. Each note, each brushstroke, was a testament to their shared journey, a melody of healing woven from the threads of loss. One evening, as they worked in Leo's apartment, a knock on the door startled them. It was Sarah, Ethan's friend, a hesitant smile on her face. She held a worn briefcase in her hand, its leather softened by time.
"There was something I found in Ethan's belongings,"
she said, her voice laced with emotion.
"I thought you might want to see it."
With trembling hands, she opened the briefcase, revealing a collection of sheet music, tied together with a faded ribbon. On top lay a single sheet, titled in Ethan's handwriting, The Unfinished Symphony. Tears welled up in Nicole's eyes as she recognized the familiar notes. This was the melody that had haunted her dreams, a glimpse into the soul of the man she loved. With a gentle touch, she picked up the sheet music, a wave of emotions washing over her. This was a turning point. The symphony they were creating was no longer just a tribute to Clara and Ethan, but a bridge between their past and present, a way to weave their stories into a melody of hope and healing. In that quiet moment, surrounded by music and shared memories, a fragile peace settled over them. The past, with its burden of grief and unspoken secrets, couldn't be erased. But with each note played and each word written, they were composing a future together, a whisper of a melody that promised a symphony of life and love. Chapter 11. Chasing Ghosts in the Moonlight. The years flowed like a melody in itself, each season bringing a new chapter to the symphony of their lives. Leo and Nicole's collaboration had blossomed into a beautiful partnership, their individual talents merging to create a unique artistic voice. Their symphony, Reconciliation, was finally complete, a poignant and powerful piece that resonated with audiences on a profound level. One moonlit night, on the anniversary of their first encounter in the park, they found themselves back on the familiar bench. The city lights shimmered in the distance, a far cry from the solitary figure Nicole had seen a year ago. The years had etched lines on their faces, a testament to their shared journey. But their eyes, reflecting the soft glow of the moon, held a depth of understanding and love that transcended words. A lone violinist stood beneath the oak tree, his silhouette eerily familiar. As he began to play, a melancholic melody filled the air. A melody they both recognized, the Unfinished Symphony. A strange sense of peace settled over Nicole. It wasn't just Ethan's music. It was a culmination of their own story, a bittersweet reflection on the ghosts they had chased and the solace they had found in each other. The melody swelled, then faded into the night, leaving an aching silence in its wake. Leo took her hand, his fingers warm and comforting. They rose from the bench, their gazes fixed on the moonlit sky. In the distance, the city pulsed with life, a vibrant metropolis that had witnessed their grief and their healing. The moon, a silent observer, cast its silvery light on their intertwined figures, a testament to the enduring power of love and music. They walked hand in hand, not chasing ghosts in the moonlight anymore, but embracing the melody of their own creation. The symphony, a bridge built over the chasms of loss, now served as a guiding light, a promise of a future filled with music, love, and the echoes of the past transformed into a sweet, harmonious refrain. Chapter 12. The Crumbling Walls of Denial. Years later, Nicole stood backstage at a prestigious concert hall, her heart pounding a familiar rhythm against her ribs. Tonight was the premiere of their revised symphony, a reimagining of Reconciliation, infused with the experiences of a lifetime. The original piece, born from raw grief, had evolved alongside their love story, taking on new layers of meaning with each passing year. A wave of nostalgia washed over her as she glanced at the aged violin case resting on a nearby chair. Inside, nestled amongst velvet lining, lay Ethan's instrument. It had become a silent companion, a tangible reminder of the man who had unknowingly brought them together. A knock on the dressing room door startled her. Leo entered, his eyes crinkling at the corners with a familiar smile. He held out a single white rose, the same flower Ethan had gifted her under the Parisian sky all those years ago. Tears welled up in her eyes, a bittersweet ache settling in her chest. It was a reminder of the journey they had taken, the walls of denial they had crumbled together, brick by brick, with each note played and each word written. Taking a deep breath, she reached out and took the rose. Its velvety petals felt cool against her skin, a grounding presence amidst the flurry of emotions. They stood in silence, a lifetime of shared experiences reflected in their eyes. The conductor's baton tapped sharply, a signal for them to take their positions. Nicole, clutching Ethan's violin and her notebook filled with stories, stepped onto the stage. Leo, his own violin poised beneath his chin, stood beside her. As the first notes of the symphony filled the hall, a hush fell over the audience. The revised piece, infused with the melody of their own love story, resonated with a deeper poignancy. The initial movements, a lament for lives lost, now carried a tinge of acceptance, a bittersweet farewell. The middle section, once a raw exploration of grief, had transformed into a celebration of shared memories. The music soared, weaving a tapestry of love, loss, and the enduring power of human connection. The final movement, the heart of the revision, resonated with a newfound hope. It wasn't a denial of the past, but a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the ability to find solace and even joy in the face of loss. As the last note faded, the hall erupted in thunderous applause. Tears streamed down Nicole's face, a mixture of grief, gratitude, and love. This wasn't just their music. It was a culmination of shared journeys, a testament to the transformative power of art. Taking a bow, their hands met, a silent conversation passing between them. They had faced their pasts, chased away the ghosts, and built a life together. A symphony of love played on the strings of acceptance and the melody of healing. The crumbling walls of denial had been replaced by a fortress of shared experiences, a haven built on music, love, and the echoes of a past transformed into a beautiful, harmonious melody. Chapter 13. A Symphony of Forgiveness. Decades had passed, etching silver streaks into Nicole's hair and deepening the lines on Leo's face. Yet, their eyes, when they met across the crowded concert hall, held the same spark of shared understanding that had ignited their connection all those years ago. Tonight was a special performance. A young violinist, barely a teenager, stood at the center stage, her bow poised above a familiar instrument, Ethan's violin. The piece being performed? A newly discovered composition, titled A Symphony of Forgiveness. Nicole's heart hammered against her ribs, a kaleidoscope of emotions swirling within. The discovery of the symphony, hidden away in Ethan's old music studio, had been a revelation. It wasn't a farewell lament, but a poignant plea for understanding, a melody woven with threads of forgiveness. As the young violinist played, the story unfolded, a soaring melody depicting a fiery tragedy, followed by a melancholic dirge of regret. Then, a shift. The music softened, hesitant at first, then building in strength. It spoke of acceptance, a yearning for reconciliation, a bridge built over the chasm of past hurt. Tears welled up in Nicole's eyes. This wasn't just Ethan's story. It was a reflection of their own journey. Their reconciliation symphony, born from shared grief, had paved the way for this one, a testament to the enduring power of forgiveness. Beside her, Leo squeezed her hand, his own gaze fixed on the young violinist. His father, the renowned conductor, a man once burdened by guilt, sat in the front row, his face etched with a mixture of sorrow and acceptance. The final movement, a crescendo of hope and reconciliation, washed over the audience. The young violinist, with a flourish, brought the piece to a close. The hall erupted in thunderous applause, a wave of appreciation for the unearthed melody and the emotions it evoked. Later, backstage, a young woman, the violinist, approached Nicole and Leo. Her eyes, the same shade of blue as Ethan's, held a spark of curiosity. In her trembling hands, she clutched a worn leather-bound journal, Ethan's journal, the one that had revealed the secret that had once threatened to tear their lives apart. Nicole, her heart filled with a profound sense of peace, offered a gentle smile. With a silent nod, she handed over Ethan's violin, a tangible symbol of forgiveness and a bridge between past and present. The young violinist, tears glistening in her eyes, cradled the instrument close. The melody of forgiveness, first penned by Ethan, now resonated within a new generation, a testament to the healing power of music and the transformative power of truth. As Nicole and Leo walked hand in hand out of the concert hall, the city lights shimmered around them, a vibrant testament to the life they had built together. The melody of their symphony, a tapestry woven from grief, love, and acceptance, echoed in the night air, a reminder that forgiveness, like music, has the power to heal even the deepest wounds. Chapter 14. The the crescendo of revelation. The crisp autumn air swirled with fallen leaves as Nicole stood before a weathered gravestone. The inscription, worn but clear, read, "Ethan Miller, a life cut short, a melody unfinished." Tears welled in her eyes, a bittersweet mix of gratitude and sorrow washing over her. Years had passed since their final performance, the symphony of forgiveness resonating with audiences across the globe. Leo, her constant companion, now rested beside her, his hand a silent comfort in the cool breeze. Together, they had faced their pasts, built a life filled with music and love, and helped Ethan's melody find its voice. Yet, there remained a lingering sense of incompleteness, a final note that hadn't been played. As if guided by an unseen hand, Nicole's gaze drifted towards a lone figure standing beneath a nearby oak tree. It was Sarah, Ethan's friend, a familiar sadness etched on her face. In her hand, she clutched a worn briefcase, the same one that had held the sheet music for Ethan's unfinished symphony. A spark of understanding ignited within Nicole. This wasn't just a visit to a grave. It was a culmination of their journey, a crescendo of revelation waiting to be played. With a gentle smile, she beckoned Sarah closer. Sarah approached, her expression laced with a mix of apprehension and hope. As their eyes met, a silent understanding passed between them. With trembling hands, Sarah opened the briefcase, revealing a collection of sheet music, each page filled with Ethan's meticulous handwriting. On top lay a single sheet, titled simply, "The Last Movement." Tears streamed down Nicole's face as she recognized the familiar melody, the hauntingly beautiful farewell she had glimpsed years ago under the Parisian sky. This wasn't just a missing piece. It was the key to unlocking Ethan's soul, the final note in his unfinished symphony. With a deep breath, Nicole took the sheet music, the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. Back in their cozy apartment, now filled with a lifetime of shared memories, Nicole and Leo sat side by side. Leo, his violin cradled in his arms, his expression a mixture of curiosity and anticipation. Nicole, armed with Ethan's sheet music and her well-worn notebook, her heart pounding with the rhythm of a long-awaited performance. As the first notes of the last movement flowed from Leo's violin, a profound silence filled the room. The melody, achingly beautiful and laced with a poignant acceptance, resonated within their souls. It spoke of a life cut short, dreams unrealized, yet a heart filled with love and a spirit yearning for peace. Nicole, her pen dancing across the page, poured her emotions into her writing. The story unfolded, a tapestry of Ethan's dreams woven with his struggles, his love for music a beacon shining through the darkness of his past. With each note played, each word written, a missing piece of the puzzle fell into place. The unfinished symphony, once a symbol of Ethan's grief, transformed into a testament to his resilience, a final love letter to the world and the music that had defined him. As the last note faded, a heavy silence descended, but this time, it wasn't tinged with sorrow. It was a silence filled with peace, a quiet acceptance of the past, and a profound gratitude for the music Ethan had left behind. Together, they held the completed symphony, a collaboration between past and present, a melody of love, loss, and the enduring power of music. It wasn't just Ethan's story. It was theirs too, a testament to the transformative power of forgiveness and the way art could bridge the gap between life and death. Standing on the balcony overlooking the city lights, Nicole and Leo held hands, the melody of their symphony echoing in their hearts. The final note had been played, the crescendo of revelation reached. Yet, they knew the music would continue, carried on the wings of memory, a testament to the enduring power of love, forgiveness, and the unfinished melody of a life well lived. Chapter 15. A Forever Composed in Harmony. The melody lingered, a gentle echo in the air long after the final performance. The symphony, a culmination of decades of shared experience, love, and the bittersweet symphony of life, resonated within Nicole and Leo. It wasn't just a musical masterpiece. It was a testament to their unwavering bond, a forever composed in harmony. Their days were now filled with a quiet contentment, the golden glow of twilight settling over their lives. The bustling city, once a backdrop for their whirlwind romance, now felt like a familiar embrace. Evenings were spent in their cozy apartment, filled with the comforting sounds of Leo's violin weaving magic with the stories that flowed from Nicole's pen. One afternoon, while sorting through a box of old keepsakes, Nicole stumbled upon a worn leather journal tucked away in a dusty corner. It was her own journal, filled with the naive dreams and aspirations of a young woman yearning for a connection, a melody waiting to be composed. A bittersweet smile played on her lips as she flipped through the pages, memories flooding back, the park bench meetings, the shared grief, the hesitant steps towards love. Back then, the future was a vast unknown, a canvas waiting for life's brushstrokes. Reaching the final page, a single sentence jumped out at her, scrawled in her youthful handwriting. "Someday, I will find my melody, a symphony composed of love and acceptance." Tears welled up in her eyes. The journey had been long and arduous, filled with unexpected twists and heart-wrenching discoveries. Yet, they had found their melody, a tapestry woven with the threads of Ethan's unfinished symphony, the echoes of Clara's dreams, and the unwavering love they had built together. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, they found themselves on their familiar bench in the park. The oak tree, a silent witness to their journey, stood tall, its branches reaching towards the twilight sky. Leo, his gaze fixed on the vibrant colors adorning the horizon, reached for her hand. A silent conversation passed between them, a shared understanding of the long road they had traveled and the melody they had created together. With a gentle smile, Nicole pulled out her well-worn notebook. The blank page held the promise of a new story, a melody yet to be composed. But this time, it wouldn't be a symphony of grief or a testament to loss. It would be a celebration of life, a love letter to the present, a forever composed in harmony. As she began to sketch, the first notes of a lively melody danced across the page. It spoke of love, of acceptance, and the enduring beauty found in the simple moments shared with a soulmate. It was a melody for two, a forever composed not just in music, but in the quiet rhythm of their beating hearts. The symphony of their lives, though reaching its final movement, wasn't over. It would continue, a timeless melody echoing through the halls of their memories, a testament to the transformative power of love, the healing embrace of music, and the forever they had composed together, a harmonious symphony played on the strings of acceptance and the melody of a life well loved.